You mentioned Justice Minister, His Excellency, he is next to speak. I'd like to invite him to do so around perhaps the sort of opening question, putting the proposition that lifting a country out of the horrors of civil war and military rule, discrimination, and the process of rebuilding a country, rebuilding civic institutions and mutual trust in those institutions, it's of course a highly problematic thing. It's like akin to building an aircraft whilst trying to fly it at the same time, I suppose. I wonder if I could invite you, Mr. Hluttaw, to address yourself to those challenges, the process of rebuilding trust in institutions as circumstances. How are you going about that?
So thank you, Professor Mark. So I'm very pleased Myanmar Campaign Network has invited me to be here, Myanmar Roadmap to Federal Democracy Forum, today to contribute to the discussion on the very exciting challenges we face as we continue to build a new Myanmar. Thanks again to Professor Mark Kenny, and good morning and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. For me, the good morning state. So Myanmar Roadmap to the Federal Democracy Forum. So I would like to change a bit on my topics rather than the NUCC one-year strategy. I think it's more sensible to talk about NUCC plan for this year, and I will also address justice system and transitional justice. One of the pivotal issues of the NUCC's plan for this year's strategy is to get NUCC recognition as a legitimate government of the Burma, Myanmar. Equally important is working to restore peace, democracy, and rule of law. The NUCC needs to be able to speak officially within the UN system to formally influence the decision made there. It also needs access to the formal government-to-government interactions. On transitional justice, we are already taking big steps forward. The Myanmar military and their chief collaborators will be held to account before the international tribunals. We have moved before the International Court for Justice to block the agenda as the representatives of the people. We have dropped objections to the jurisdiction of the court and have agreed to participate in the court's trial of international crimes against the Rohingya. The NUCC has shown its willingness to comply with the international obligations. Amongst other actions, on 3rd June 2021, the NUCC issued a historic statement on its intentions to comply with international obligations relating to Rohingyas, including the voluntary, safe, and the dignified repatriations. This is in stark contrast to the army, Tamaro, who through committing thousands of the human rights abuses and crimes against humanity, have shown no regards for international law and norms. In another important international legal tribunal, the International Criminal Court, we have fully accepted its jurisdiction as well. NUCC have agreed to have the court investigate all crimes within its jurisdiction in Myanmar. This hopes to see that murderous generals and their allies sitting in the prisoner's dock, where war crimes before them have faced trial and received punishments. In the midst of the open conflicts, we are also attempting to ensure that Myanmar's own freedom fighters, PDFs, respect the principle of international humanitarian law. Now, I would like to talk about the justice systems. I strongly believe that if there is no justice, there is no peace at all. This requires transitions to a new Ministry of Justice for the Federal Myanmar. The current context is like that. The current institutions dictated by the SEC cannot be seen as any form of the justice system. The SEC's codes, prosecutions, and the police do not operate with any recognizable form of justice or rule of law. It is simply ruled by unjust orders. The result in Myanmar's people and its international supporters have no confidence in the existing justice system in Myanmar. Many think it needs to be completely rebuilt. For NUG, there are the two important aspects of the justice system. Number one, what currently exists within the NUG and other opposition ethnic area. And number two, what will operate in Myanmar in the future. It is important that all parties, whether SAC or any groups having some form of the governmental control over areas, respect the business principle of the justice system. This means that the areas of NUG control, it is going through the process of appointing judges and justice system. In terms of what operates in the future in Myanmar, this will be informed by the situation in the years leading to the latest coup. Certainly, there will be a need to create and support an independent judiciary system, but also attention to the properly resourcing the justice system, including policing and prisons. I expect that international organization will have the NUG and its MOJ deliver justice for the people of Myanmar as soon as the transition to the democracy begins. MOJ had justice transition plan. It is getting ready to return to the democratic justice. The management of the legal challenges in the first weeks and months of the transitions from the SAC general to a democratic government will be critical. These will have a powerful impact on whether the people of Myanmar and their international partners develop trust and confidence in the new government and its Ministry of Justice. In Karenni State, Chin State, Sakai and Magwe regions, the SAC used brutal tactics. They have not only led to the massive military setbacks, but also to a series of the criminal cases being prepared against their leadership. The NUG, EROs, and the PDF have assembled with witness accounts, physical evidence, and even some of the body of the murdered as it prepares over the dozens cases of the military atrocities. Those cases will be brought to the attentions of the nations committed to the investigate such as abuses under their acceptance of the legal concepts known as the universal jurisdiction. This is one of the end of the NUG's counterattack. Another is to train, fund, and administer the creations of the legitimate judiciary on the ground in territories held by our forces. Now, 35 townships are now living their new reality, never before experienced of a competent, neutral legal system. The contrast between the legal future of a new Myanmar and the blood-soaked policy of the juntas could not be more stark. With the support of international alliance, we will work hard to extend this new justice system to all the communities we have swept the junta from. When democracy returns to Myanmar, there will be a new justice system. It will be built on the rule of law. The most basic principle of the rule of law is that law applies equally to everyone, powerful or powerless, majority or minority, civilian or military. Under our new justice, the law will apply equally to everyone. There has been a major shift in the outlook of our people. Right now, in the midst of tragedy, they are learning about their rights and how to defend them. There will be a whole new generations of the justice workers, legislators, judges, lawyers, prosecutors, court administrators, paralegals, etc. They will believe in the rule of law and implement in their daily work. An important ethical differences between NUG and the junta is our respect for international law. This involves respect for and insistence on obedience to all the international law on human rights and the conduct of war. We have many times appealed to our forces, soldiers, and our civilian supporters to ensure compliance of all who are truly loyal to revolution. We all need to see these standards and the laws as the guidelines to all their action in our battles. Summary killings or informers or other extrajudicial killings were not tolerated. There are already several cases being investigated by the NUG and the PDF. Our new justice will be built within a new federal structure. This will ensure that the rule of law will apply to everyone in Myanmar whenever they lived. Now I would like to talk about the transitional justice, what we are facing with. The transitional justice can be understood as a set of the judicial and non-judicial measures implemented by the societies to redress legacies of the massive human rights abuses and authoritarian rule. These particularly covers accountabilities and redress for victims. The MOJ aims to develop and implement an approach to the transitional justice that, number one, brings peace, democracy, and reconciliations to Myanmar. And number two, brings accountability and the redress to the victims of the mass human rights violations during the conflicts unleashed by the SAC in 2021. NUG and others carefully examining what has occurred in other countries such as Cambodia, Timor, Colombia, South Africa, and others. We are actively collaborating with the leading international non-governmental organizations and experts worldwide in transitional justice, seeking their guidance and assistance. Importantly, as noted earlier in NUG's plans, whatever happened, there must be current documentations and data collections because this is necessary for any future use and understanding. To talk about transitional justice assumes some form of the negotiators' outcome. So it would be dilute to think that one party can lay down the full details of every step involved. But can be sure whatever process developed, it will involve, number one, broad participations or endorsements across Myanmar. Number two, international players and standards. Number three, realizations of the long process. Transitional justice will be a pillar of a new justice for Myanmar. At this moment, we are the victims of the national tragedy. The new justice system will ensure accountability for war crimes and crime against humanity, including some genocide. The message junta criminalities, we are living victimized ethnic minorities, civil disobedience activists, lawful people's defense force, and many others. This will all be dealt with the Myanmar new justice. The building blocks of the Myanmar new justice will include constitutional reform. For the Federal Democratic Union, also, there will be legislative changes to support democracy, laws relating to citizenship, human rights, electoral system, civil service, land, and many other will all be changed. In conclusion, new justice will be expensive, but not as expensive as the injustice that is now ravaging our country. We will be looking for our people and to our international partners for their support, moral, political, and financial. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Utanu. That was extraordinary and very interesting, very encouraging in terms of the future. Of course, there are many hurdles to get past, not least being convincing the military government to go back to the role of being a traditional military, which has nothing to do with politics. And of course, that is the core of this whole problem.